We're back now with time for the Politics Fix with NBC's Meet the Press moderator David Gregory and Atlantic Media's political director Ron Brownstein. By the way, you've got Pluff on this weekend, the man who masterminded
the architect.
Do you think they could have used that guy the last 6 months, 9 months? Did they miss that kind of person?
Questions. The grassroots skill, the social networking, the ability to engage everybody, including Fox News. Where's all that gone? I mean, he's gone. Where that whole strategy seemed.
The whole brilliance of the campaign doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah. Well, look, there was always a question about whether those tools that were so effective in campaigning would be applicable.
Can I suggest a question?
Yes.
Let me hear. Write down. Okay. Have they asked you to come back?
Exactly. Well, but it's very interesting. He made a decision that not to go inside. Part family, part because he was going to run the re-elect. I'm sure. Now the book's done. We'll start working on the re-elect. That's
I see. Let's ask about a troubling character in the Democratic larger family, Joe Lieberman. Here he is talking to ABC on the Senate subway. Let's listen.
I would expect that I probably will support some Republican candidates for Congress or Senate in the elections in 2010. I'm going to call them as I see them. That means sometimes the better choice is somebody who's not a Democrat.
He's so reasonable, but he's talking treason there.
No, well, he loves twisting the knife in for Democrats. But in a world...
That was going to be my metaphor.
In a world,
he was a bit butter on the knife, too, as he put it in.
But in a world where it takes 60 votes to do anything, it's a world Huey Long would recognize. Every man is a king. And the Democrats can only go so far in antagonizing him or trying to respond to something like this, because more often than not, he does vote with them when they need him.
You know what they call that in our business? Leverage.
Leverage. A lot of leverage.
By the way, he got away with endorsing a Republican for president. Okay, how scared is he going to be?
Now he's going to go around the country and say, what other Republican hawks would like to have me next to them, saying he's a good guy, no matter what your party.
All right. And look, but again, I mean, he voted for the stimulus. He will probably vote for a cap-and-trade bill when that comes along. And depending on what happens on the public option, in the end, he will probably be there on the health care bill.
So there's
he could be a big ally on Afghanistan.
So Mark Twain is still right. I belong to no organized political party.
Well, it'd be a lot easier to discipline people if you didn't need 60 votes to do everything. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of Democrats who would love to be responding to Joe Lieberman in some way, but they need him more than he needs them at this point.
Two big brains here. Is Harry Reid a secret genius? He's a quiet guy, not exactly flashy. But has he brilliantly set this thing up so that he can go opt out, opt in, trigger, and calibrate it so that he will get to 60 or 61 votes by the time he needs them in the Senate and actually win this biggest thing ever, since the civil rights age for a senator?
Well, potentially. I mean, it's not counting him brilliant yet until we see some results. One of the things I think he did achieve is I think he assuaged the anger of the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, who was none too pleased with Harry Reid or the White House when her caucus was forced to walk the plank and vote for a public option in their bills. And then the Senate and the White House said, well, it's public option isn't everything. She's gotten him back on board.
I think these two sides are equalizing. By the way, the House doesn't look as left as it looked 2 months ago. And the Senate doesn't look as right.
And in fact, if Harry Reid did not make an effort for a significant public plan, the left forever would have said you never tried. And now it really becomes an empirical question. If there are 60 votes for an opt-out version, it'll be there. If there aren't 60 votes for the opt-out version, then you've got to move on.
I think he's won the affection of my colleague Ed Schultz already. Schultz is very much a public option guy, and I think he considers him his champion right now.
And that's kind of the reverse of Cronkite, I suppose. You have Ed Schultz, you have America. But I mean, the fact is that the left would never have forgiven Reid and the Democrats in the Senate if they did not make an attempt. And now the question, the onus really is back on the left. Can they deliver 60 votes? Can they pressure some of those moderate state Democrats? In the end, probably not. But they have to, I think, make the try first.
One important piece of this is to get a public option. Do they have to cover fewer people? Do they have to drop taxes in order? Can they do less?
Yeah, okay, we'll be right back with David Gregory and Ron Brownstein. I want to talk about this Afghanistan hell because I think it's one issue you cannot find a middle on. You either have a trumpet blast to leave or a trumpet blast to stay. I don't think we need a foghorn. We're back with David Gregory and Ron Brownstein with more of the Politics Fix. You know, sometimes in politics you can't do what Barack Obama loves to do, which is to find the middle, to say that we have false choices here. I'm not sure there's any false choices in Afghanistan, David. I think it's a choice. I think he's got to decide, beat the Taliban or begin the slow goodbye.
You know, I spoke to someone today who said they appear to be just looking for the exit and they can't find it. I think you're right. I think that the difficulty of Afghanistan requires the sort of effort that Americans may not be on board for. But if you believe and if you campaign on the idea that the Bush administration did not send enough troops to win, and you want to take on rebuilding a country that's even harder to rebuild than Iraq, this is a long-term enterprise. Because remember this, the people we're fighting there have been fighting this for decades, and they wanted us to come fight them. They've got a lot of time.
They're inviting us in there. Yeah, they want us. And by the way, General McCaffrey was on last night. He said 10 years, thousands of casualties per year.
Yeah, and
a real slog,
a real slog,
horrid slog.
A tremendous slog, and a slog that I think at the senior levels in the White House they understand that the end of which is unlikely to be a very satisfying outcome. And maybe the best you can do, as in many cases I think in this new world we're in, is simply avoiding the worst outcome. And whether that
How do you do that?
And what that is, the worst outcome would be a collapse of the government that allows a radical Islamic government to once again take power. Avoiding that a sufficient justification for the American people to accept an extended involvement there. And I think, look, I have said, and I do believe he has more rope than people think, that people do see more of a national security interest. This is where 9/11 was born and plotted, and that the country, in fact, will be more willing to follow him than some of the polls now suggest if he says that we must continue this effort. But it is difficult, because it's difficult to say that if we do make a serious effort, we're going to get to a point that we really like at the end. We may simply avoid getting to a point that we find unacceptable.
Let me ask you, this could be one of those times where once you make a decision, it really does stick. If he decides to go with the 40,000 more troops, doesn't he really say at that point, I'm going to fight this war and win it? Is there any stepping back after that, once you've done that?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm going to fight this war and win it, and whether we win or lose it is not something I'm going to be around for, even if I'm a two-term president. I mean, that's, I think, a lot of what he's saying.
There's a lot more trips to Dover, too.
Yes,
a lot more bodies, a lot more people. They will be his, too.
And what will be the definition of winning it? I mean, that's going to be a very...
You can't eradicate Taliban like you couldn't eradicate the... So what do they mean by victory?
Well, victory...
Let's take a look. David Brooks today was very hawkish, and David Brooks, I'll paraphrase him, he basically made the point, we don't know where the president's soul is, his gut is. Do you guys know where it is?
No, and my question is, what is the Obama doctrine?
That's another way of phrasing it.
Right. What is his leadership both in America on the war and around the world on the war? What is he prepared to do? Because we have a vision of it from the campaign, we have a vision of it from March, and now we have a period of questioning the underlying assumptions of the war.
One thing he has done, though, clearly from the campaign and as president, he has tried to narrow the goal. I mean, he has tried to be very specific. Our goal is to prevent the use of this territory as a base for launching operations against Europe and our homeland.
We'll see.
I mean, he has tried to narrow what we're trying to do to something that may be achievable.